I want winners. I want people that want to win.
All right, Rod, if I was to tell you before this game started, the 49ers would lose Jimmy very early on and would turn it over to Brock Purdy, and they would win by 16 points, would you have thought I was nuts? Would you have thought I was, like, I don't know, speaking out of my mind? Like, what would your thought have been if I had told you this?
I would have thought that the Miami Dolphins first string missed the bus and and they were playing their second and third stringers is what I would have thought must have happened. Hey man, that kid, I like his moxie. I mean, he clearly is he's limited talent wise,
Yes.
but he's not scared. I'll say that for him. He did not appear to be flustered at all. I like his moxie. That's all I can say about it. That was a very good performance, all things considered.
Yeah, so I think depending on how what I would like to know is if McDaniel planned on blitzing Garoppolo that much. I'm not sure if he did or not, or if he just saw the rookie quarterback, the 7th round draft pick, deer in headlights. Let's just bring people at him constantly. Because the way that the 49ers offense played today, I kind of feel like Jimmy would have had a good game as well against Miami. But I mean, we would need to know sort of what that, how much of that strategy changed for them. But I guess the thing that I can say about Brock is he obviously had I don't know if he played all 4 years of college, or if he was a starter all 4 years of college, but he played 4 years of college. So he already comes in, not that he's playing a game the equivalent of an NFL game, but has some big game experience in his own way.
Uh-huh.
And like you said, he didn't seem like the moment was too big. Like he was very confident. Because you've seen, and we've all seen moments where players come in and they look like, oh my God, like this moment is way too big. And he didn't look like that at all. And so as a fan, you had a little bit of confidence there with like, okay, we're gonna give this kid a shot. Thankfully, they have all these other weapons too that helps the situation because Debo's not going down in any way. Jordan Mason's coming out fresh legs and busting through holes, and I still don't think they have unlocked CMC completely, but from the run pass perspective, this was one of his better games. Not his best game, but you saw them utilize him in a myriad of ways and very effectively as well. That cutback run late in the fourth quarter was tremendous. But yeah, like I think, and we'll get to this in a second because this Jimmy injury seems to be probably a little more worrisome than maybe people even realize. But for this game, for this big, Miami's a good team. I don't think you can't say that they're not. Like even let's take out, let's just focus on the offense. Wow, like holy crap! If Tua wasn't a little jittery or whatever and throwing high, man, they might have had a really big first half against us. But good team. You lose your starting quarterback. Your defense gets 4 turnovers. You win at home convincingly, and you do it with your third string quarterback. There's really no negative to that in any way, I don't think.
I completely agree. This was one of my favorite analysts is Mina Kimes, and she talked about this week this being a referendum on teams being able to zone Miami because apparently nobody's been able to do it. And she felt that if we couldn't do it with our linebackers, that nobody could.
Right.
And we did a pretty good job of being able to not have to man up against those guys. And you know, Warner and your boy Dre. My goodness. We really defensively, I think our defense had more to do with Tua and their offense not performing the way they have been than their offense did. I think we just played a really, really good defensive game.
You have to okay. If I'm being honest, and if I'm like thinking back to what I was thinking in the first quarter, I was worried that he was going to start connecting on those balls, and he did on a couple of them. But to your point, by that point, the pass rush was coming in. Like Tua knew he had to get rid of that ball really quickly because, you know, you saw in the end, Bosa, Bosa gets the fumble, and they pick it up and they score. If Bosa doesn't get that play, I forget whoever was the other linebacker there would have crushed Tua for like this bone-breaking sack. Yeah, so like it was there was just by that point the defense was just working, tremendously. But I will say in the beginning, I was a little bit like, oh, if Tua doesn't miss this guy high, that's a 20-yard gain right there. So there were moments in the beginning where I was a little bit like, okay, if he's playing his A game, maybe the first half of this game turns out a little differently.
Yeah, that's fair. But I don't know. I'm not sure if they were attributing it. Johnston was attributing it to jitters,
being
hyped up or whatever. I don't know what it was, but he was definitely not the player that I had watched the several weeks previous. So I don't know if it was, if our guys were in his head, which, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, our pass rush is pretty fearsome. So
yeah,
that could be, I don't know what it was, but he definitely was not, he was not on in the first half. And that made a difference. It really, it put them behind the 8 ball, even though, I mean, obviously that first play of the game was, that wasn't an ideal start.
I was kind of mad because I was like, I don't think Trent ever made a play like that for us.
Right.
Man. Okay, so you mentioned Mina Kimes, and when you get into what's great about podcasts and just discussion around football these days. And by the way, for people watching, if you have comments or questions, throw them in. This show's interactive. I'll put tons of stuff up. So, but you mentioned Mina Kimes, and so I was listening to Ben Solak, who writes for The Ringer. He was on Bill Simmons' show, and he said his number one matchup for the week was Tua against Fred Warner. And the reason is because Tua throws over the middle more than any quarterback in football, and it's not even close. And he even missed games. So they just attack the middle of the field, and it kind of goes back to your statement about, can the 49ers play zone? And so when that first play happened, Warner got beat amongst others.
Right.
But that was kind of his area. And so they take, and immediately I'm thinking back to what Solak said, and I was like, oh man, here we go. But not saying that they pitched a perfect game the rest of the way, because again, there were open receivers, but that's just what Miami is. They're creating so many opportunities to make plays, and it's up to Tua to hit those spots. I was kind of watching for that middle of the field. They got beat similarly, but it was deeper on the Tyreek Hill touchdown. You saw Hufanga creep up to where I think it was Craycraft was in the middle of the field, because they know that's where Tua likes to go. and Tua snuck it deep on that post, and perfect, great throw, beautiful throw. And at that point, you were like, okay, that's the Dolphins that I sort of expected to see. And thankfully, the 49ers were able to bottle them up as much as you can. Yardage-wise, the Dolphins had great stats, but they only put the ball in the end zone 2 times. And, for this high-powered offense, all the things that we heard, they look great. There were moments where I was like, man, this is really fun to watch if you're a Dolphins fan. But the Niners were ultimately the better team, even with a third-string quarterback, and I think that says something.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, they made plays, but they really did not fast break us the way you would have expected with the speed they have with Waddle and Hill. They really weren't able to unlock that very much. That one play, like you say, to Hill, that was, I don't know exactly what Hufanga's responsibility was. I don't know who was wrong, but clearly Mooney thought that he was going to have that help in the middle.
By the way, I got some breaking news. Shanahan just said Garoppolo done for the year.
I had heard just before I came on, Joe Fonzie was saying he was hearing fracture.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's
so fracture was the worst case scenario. I think people were saying, even high ankle sprain is probably end of the year. He's ready for playoffs. And low ankle and the low ankle sprain is what you were sort of hoping for, out a couple weeks or whatever. But yeah, so that's worst case scenario there. And it kind of hits to my first point here. I don't think we can expect Brock Purdy to just all of a sudden take the mantle and play perfect football. There's going to be lots of ups and downs with his play. But if you just take what we saw today, there are aspects of what he does very well, which Kyle can game plan around. Maybe it's way more game managery. Maybe they rely a little bit more on a lot of the running things that they were doing last year with the wide back stuff. And it's going to be short stuff, right? Because the Dolphins gave him everything deep and they didn't take a shot. So that's the other part of this is the field size kind of shrinks for the 49ers a little bit here. So they'll I'm sure Kyle will have his scenarios, but question is, the 49ers had Super Bowl aspirations trading for CMC like that. That's very clear. Do you think this situation with Jimmy going down, do you think it takes those Super Bowl aspirations and kind of throws them down the drain?
It makes it a lot more difficult. I think there are some things that are still there for Purdy. Like you say, it's going to be much more game managery. I like him, I heard there was a lot online talking about his cement feet in the pocket. Well, I thought he looked pretty good moving around. So I think that's something that's there, a little play action, booting out and kind of giving him time and moving out away from pressure. And we'll see. But definitely, I had said that to somebody earlier this week that, there's no team in the league that if you go to their QB3 that you're really talking about, having, Super Bowl or winning big aspirations. That's just not how it works. I mean, there are no QB3s in the league that are, that you're expecting to lead your team, to a Super Bowl or to a deep playoff run. But from what I saw today, I think we have enough talent that we can still be competitive. But Super Bowl aspirations, that's a lot. It's a lot for the last pick in the draft as a rookie.
And it doesn't sound like, it really seems like it's pie in the sky for Trey to even get on the field. And we don't, they've invested so much in him. That's probably not a risk that they're willing to take as well. So really, it's Brock Purdy and it's Jacob Eason and it's whoever else they bring in to be the third guy, and that's what we're looking at for the last what is this? This was what, week 13. So that's what we're looking at for the next 4 weeks plus the playoffs is
I mean,
the Purdy and Eason combo.
Are there any old guys that you'd be willing to dust off for another 4 weeks? Like Phillip Rivers or Drew Brees or
Alex Smith. Alex Smith's been doing TV.
Hey,
I'm in. Let's go. Bring Alex Smith back.
Bring Alex back. There you go.
Yeah, and we talked about it last week with the Andy Dalton thing where it was like, well, the 49ers, Jimmy was their Andy Dalton, and then Jimmy had to start. So you can't have two Andy Daltons. And so you have the guy who makes no money as your third guy. And it's unfortunate that it worked out that way. But I'm oddly, I mean, I'm sure if this team who has been playing so well of late, because of this scenario, if they just kind of teeter off and have a bad end of the season, I'll be really frustrated. But like that fear or that worry for me, at least right now, playing the Bucs next week, it's not there. And I think it's because I liked what I saw. I didn't see anything that was like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to kill us. And I just need to see more, because maybe we will see those things. Maybe we will see the moment where, when it's 3rd and 10 and he throws across the field and it gets picked off and taken to the house in a game that they need to win. Those things can possibly happen. But the way that he played today, he didn't really take any risks whatsoever. The only thing that I was really worried about was he kept bootlegging right into guys.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe we need to feel where that guy is, or maybe one of the offensive linemen should say, hey, here comes somebody, because we were bootlegging, which could have been disastrous if there were fumbles there. But yeah, I guess like I'm not. I thought, because I was preparing myself for this show, I was like, there's a chance that Jimmy is going to be done for the season when we record. And I don't know. I'm not as heartbroken as I thought I was going to be.
Me, and I don't want this to sound bad, because, me and Jimmy have a complex history. But from what I've seen, I just want to see more. I want to see more of Purdy. Again, rationally, I know that a 3rd-string quarterback rookie shouldn't, your playoff hopes should not be heaped upon his shoulders. But I mean, he didn't, he didn't make any really, like you say, outside of those boots where he's booting right into Melvin Ingram. He really didn't make any really bad decisions. He didn't. I didn't see enough of his arm to say whether or not he can't throw deep. He, that pass out there to Croft, that had a little decent little zip on it.
Yeah, I mean, he was throwing them into tight windows for sure.
Oh yeah, that one that McCaffrey dropped in the end zone. I mean, he threaded that through all kinds of needles, like 2 or 3 needles. It was a really good pass. So I'm not crestfallen. I'll just say that. I think that I still think we can win our division. And then once you get into the tournament, I mean, who knows? We have a lot of talent around him. And if the O-line can, it always goes back to them for me, as the big guys. If they can do their thing, I think we got a shot. I think we've got a shot. I trust Kyle to come up with a game plan that maximizes what the things that they saw in him to entrust him in that spot, and allow us to, give us a fighter's chance. And then with the defense that we have, I mean, we're going to be in every game. So as long as we can not, throw the ball and throw the game away, if he's not throwing the game away, we should be in there.
So Shelvin had the same question as I did about Trey, and I would have expected. Well, I'm going to expect that whenever their next practice is, and Kyle does another another press conference, that's going to be the first question that they ask him. So hopefully we'll get an answer on that soon. But Kyle, according to Matt Mayoko, I'll read Matt Mayoko's tweet. He said, Kyle Shanahan said 49ers GM John Lynch and the personnel department have already started the process of figuring out what they want to do at the backup quarterback position. Jacob Eason is on the practice squad. Shanahan said he will meet with Lynch later to go through scenarios. Now, the only backup quarterbacks that I remember winning Super Bowls when the starting QB went down during the season, there may be more than who I can think of. Jeff Hostetler, when he replaced Phil Simms and beat us in the NFC Championship game when Raj fumbled. And the only other one I can think of is Nick Foles. And I did look; he is on the Colts roster, so we cannot grab Nick Foles for a repeat there. But it has happened, though. If those are the only two examples, obviously not with the guy who starts on the third string. Yeah, so that's a story, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it. And if the 49ers keep playing well, that will be the big story here. So one more thing about this, which is obviously what we had been talking about the last couple weeks, was, if Jimmy actually continues to play well, do they bring him back? Because Trey coming back with a ankle fracture and still not having the reps, that's a little bit of, we're not sure what that is. And I wonder for Jimmy, the thing that I feel really bad about Jimmy is he came back on a 1-year deal to sort of prove himself, to go back out on the market, for him hoping to get a bigger deal than what was out there this year. And he was well on his way to probably getting a much bigger deal than this year. And now ankle injury, or foot injury technically, and he goes down and is probably going to go back to the drawing board with his offers because of that. So I think that's going to be a thing. That's going to be a storyline as well, which is, I think Trey, ball's going to be back in his court. He's going to be back as QB1, and they'll have to figure out this whole rotation thing for next year. But we'll have a lot of time to talk about that. But I just wanted to mention that because I didn't want to be super callous about Jimmy. It's just Brock kind of played a little like Jimmy to me. So I didn't, I didn't really see that big of a drop off, though. Obviously Jimmy's played in bigger games, and that's the whole thing, is experience and reps. And obviously he's much more prepared for that than Brock is. So
yeah, man, anyway. It sucks for him. I mean, the two Salary Cap websites I follow, Spot Track and Over the Cap, were both projecting 80-90 million guaranteed contracts for Jimmy on an open market, with teams like Washington and the Vegas and the Colts all in the market for quarterbacks. So this injury again kind of puts him back in limbo. Whereas if he plays out the season just as he had been going along, didn't do anything different than what he was doing, I imagine that, he would be, you got Brady, of course, who's going to be a free agent. But after that, Jimmy would be right up there at the top in terms of, quarterbacks on the market if you're looking for one. So it kind of sucks. I mean, we don't know what the timeline will be in terms of, so we're way too far away from next season to be speculating on that, but that sucks for him.
Yeah, it does. It's unfortunate. Okay, so the defense does give up a few big plays. The 2 touchdowns were dynamite plays for the Dolphins, but they pick up 4 turnovers. I I think Bosa ended up with. Did he end up with 3 sacks or 2 sacks? Bosa ended up with 3 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, obviously with that, and 3 quarterback hits. So as a team, they had 3 sacks, they had 3 interceptions, and they picked up a fumble. And throughout this whole narrative of what this game was going to be, it was who knows each other better, McDaniel or Shanahan. McDaniel knows Ryan's because he went up against Ryan's defense last year. His offense went up. So he's kind of got like the complete picture of what the 49ers do. And others said, well, Shanahan, he was the mentor. Like he knew everything, and maybe he didn't teach McDaniel everything, whatever all that stuff is. And what I thought was fascinating about this game is that when it came down to it, it was the things that kind of doom the 49ers offense, which is these tip passes that get picked off, or Jeff Wilson. I mean, I don't know if this was part of the trade, but thank you for slipping and falling so that we could get that interception. But like it was like, I'm sure all that Kyle versus McDaniel stuff mattered. Like it did matter. But when you look at like the tipping point of the game, it was just like these timely errors by Miami and the 49ers defense taking advantage of them, which sometimes they don't. Like how many NFL games do we watch where a defensive back gets hit right in the hands and drops the ball? Mm-hmm. And the 49ers picked up on all of them today. Every opportunity that was available for them, that defense took advantage of it. And man, that was like, when you think about what their defense is, which is they don't give up a lot of yards, they don't give up a lot of points, they stop the run, they rush the passer well. And then you add this piece, which reminds me a little bit more of the defense from the Harbaugh years, where you're making these game-breaking turnovers and just killing the will of the other team. Like you saw Tua's last throw into, that was like a give-up throw, right? He was just like, well, I just don't want to get hit anymore. I need to get rid of this. But like, that's what that defense did. They just took the will. And so you sort of combined all of that in this one game, which was really fascinating.
Yeah, that is, last year, I think that the biggest difference to me between this year and last year is with this defense is, being more opportunistic, turning, actually creating those turnovers. This was a masterclass today on that score. And, no disrespect to the Chiefs, but I think Miami was playing better than the Chiefs were when they came in and played us and whooped us. So for us to show up the way we did today versus that offense was very impressive. Very impressive.
So lots of talk after this game about Nick. What do you think? Shelvin says defensive player of the year.
He is a game wrecker, man. He really is. And I mean, we have so many playmakers. But I will continue to say he's our Steph Curry. He is the guy who makes it all possible for everybody else. Because you just have to, the other team, they have to come into the game figuring out where the hell he's going to be and trying to come up with some kind of plan to stop him. And I mean, when you're like the Dolphins and you come in, with 2 backup tackles, I mean, good luck. Good luck. I mean, he is a game wrecker. And I guess I saw by the end of the game that he now is in the lead for sacks, I guess. So that's I hope so. I really do hope that he's able to bring it home and gets the recognition that he deserves. Like last year, he wasn't even all pro. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I've heard Micah Parsons' name as like the other. Is there anyone else who's kind of up there with those two guys?
I don't think so.
Okay,
You know, Micah Parsons is, you know, he's a monster. There's no doubt about that. But I just think, you know, I'm biased. I hope Nick gets his due.
All right, so I like looking at kind of who's around the ball and who's getting the tackles. Of course, always Dre Greenlaw leads a team with 8, got 7 solo tackles, a pass defense, and he had the touchdown there in the fourth quarter. But the Dolphins weren't on the field that much. So, like, you look at these numbers, and I'm like, wow, the next highest tackles was 5 and then 3. The Dolphins just did not have a lot of plays. And you go to the other side, the Dolphins had 2 players with 12 tackles each, and then they had a couple guys with 7. So, you know, the time of possession really leaned into the 49ers' favor. But was there anything else about the defense? Like any specific person you kind of had your eye on? I was watching Warner because in the back of my mind, it was this whole thing about the middle of the field. But is there anything else that you were watching for?
Well, I was also watching for that to see if they were going to be able to throw us out of zone. But yeah, it was really Nick, Fred, and Dre were really guys that really stuck out and caught my eye today.
Okay, so then let's look at someone that we don't talk about this person that much, but I wanted to give him his flowers here because as we were getting late in the game, the 49ers were unable to put it in the end zone. And Robbie Gould, he even was mixing it up with someone. He was talking some crap or someone was talking crap. 4 for 4, hits the 48-yarder when they're going backward, when they had, they were like, I think they were closer to the 20 or whatever, and they got moved back and still drills it 48 yards. We don't want field goals, but when you can tell the whole game plan of Miami was just to let's make sure that Brock is going to make a decision here or make a mistake, and he didn't. But that also meant, okay, we're not really moving the chains that much at the same time. And for Robbie to come in 4 for 4, it was again just that sort of the calmness, the confidence. You're like, okay, let's turn it over to historically 49ers have had some bad kickers in the past, and you don't always have that confidence. Sometimes maybe you have to go on 4th down because you know that the kicker's not good from 45 and out. But man, with Robbie Gould, like Kyle's just like, nope, he's gonna make it. Let's figure out what we're doing on defense. This is a gimme here, and he showed out today. I thought
that was a low key big kick because at that point we're up 6. It's like 4 minutes left, and so that puts us up 9, and then subsequently we get the sack, fumble, touchdown, so it doesn't matter. But that's a big kick, because if he, and as you discussed, we had gotten to the 10, and then we move back, and then all of a sudden now we're looking at 48 yards, which is not, that's not an insignificant kick, and he just stepped up there, and he's just money. He's the MVP. He is our forever MVP.
Exactly.
I love that guy.
It's funny because we give him his flowers in our chat, and Shelvin and I, especially after he makes every kick, we give him some love. But there was talk that last couple years that he wasn't going to be back or that he didn't want to be back, want to go back to Chicago. And if the Niners, last year in the playoffs, this year we're hoping having someone dependable is a positive for sure for good football teams.
Yeah.
Okay, so who is your player of the game? I think there are 2 options here. There are 2 options for player of the game. One is probably a little bit higher than the other, but I'm interested in who you think.
Dre is my guy.
Oh wow.
I'm gonna go Dre today.
He was 3rd on my list. Okay.
So wow. Okay. I'm interested to hear your Your other two.
Okay. Do you want to give the you want to lay out for Dre here? What was the main reason why you
Well,
think?
I liked that, not to, because today he did it in all aspects. He was in coverage, he was really good. And he always, anytime you put him in a position where he's, running the gauntlet in the run game. I know he laid it on Mostert a couple times. To just, he's just a destroyer. And if he can, he's one of our tone setters in terms of just, our aggressiveness. And I thought he really helped set the tone today.
Okay, so I've Nick. I've been speaking his praises.
Yeah.
He did have the one. He got called for roughing the passer, which was not opportune, but he's had a couple. Where he hits the quarterback's legs a little lower than the officials want. And so he's my pick for number one. However,
Okay.
Brock Purdy, the way, all the different scenarios for what Brock Purdy did, this is on the higher end of the possibilities, right? Because he could have come in, just been terrible, crap, and they would have lost this game.
Yeah.
But he stayed the course, and I think he deserves some credit here. So he would be my number two, and then Dre is a great pick there for you as well.
You're not wrong.
Somebody texted me just right now and said, got to bring in Cap.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I have the ship has sailed on that. We can't no.
So I love Cap as well. I've one rule, a jersey rule, in that if I cannot buy a jersey of a player who I am older than, like that's for my kids to buy their jersey, 100%. Except for one person. I still want to buy that black Cap jersey that came out.
I've got the black Cap.
Okay, that's the only one that I will break my own rule for is for Cap. Okay, so we got 49ers and Bucks coming up. Shelvin had Dre as well. But Shelvin also thought Robbie should get some love on
absolutely.
Okay, so 49ers and Bucks. Now, there was some scuttlebutt that maybe New England was back in on Brady. Did you hear anything about this?
Bill Simmons was on that this week pretty heavy. He wasn't reporting it, but he said that there was a lot of tea leaves saying that that would be, him. It would be like a full circle type deal for him to go back to New England, because apparently, Mac is not in the good graces of Coach Belichick. I guess Mac is being a little mouthy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know that all things Boston, I defer to Simmons. So if he says that there's a chance, then I'm not going to disagree with it. I do get the feeling though that he's probably not done. I mean, he's a free agent after the end of this year, and it doesn't seem like he's ready to hang him up. So that's as good a place as any, I guess.
So Mac Jones, his statistics for this season are not fantastic. 40.4 QBR. And we were talking about Tua last week. QB rating is 35.4 QBR. And I'm trying to see if I can find a QB rating here. 87 is the QB rating. 7 picks, 7 touchdowns, and lots of short passes. Look, I mean, he's still just a second-year player as well. I think there was a lot of hope off of last year that he would be a little bit better. Now, I'm not too sad about Mac because I was unfairly sort of rooting against him because of all the talk about how he's so much better than Trey and all this stuff. But you kind of feel bad that that's like, that's replacing Steve Young, right? Or replacing Montana. It's tough.
It's a tough spot to be in. And you got the similar thing going on in New York with Zach Wilson. While I kind of understand it, I'm just not really big on throwing away 22 and 23-year-old quarterbacks. I mean, that it seems a little short-sighted to me to just be out on a guy so quickly. I mean, clearly they are both having their issues, and I guess Mac has a problem with the way Patricia is running the offense, which I'm not an offensive coordinator, so I don't know. But it doesn't seem like the most ridiculous thing in the world that Matt Patricia is not a great offensive coordinator, and that he's longing for McDaniel. But it just doesn't seem wise to buck up against Bill Belichick in that scenario, because it's not like that seems
He's
like
the king.
That seems like a no-win situation.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but that would definitely be interesting. It would. I love the fact that might happen just so that we can put to rest this whole coming back here nonsense, him coming to San Francisco nonsense.
Okay, but now that Jimmy G is hurt, those rumors are gonna happen again.
Yeah, of course they are.
And so I don't think it's gonna die down at all until he signs that contract.
It's not.
All right, so the Bucks have been, I think people would consider their run this year so far fairly disappointing after the last 2 years of Brady being there. What is your level of worry here on a 1 to 10? I feel like last week Miami was like a 7.5, 8 for us, but where would you put the Bucks?
5-6. Well, it was, I guess 5-6 was with Jimmy. So with Purdy versus that veteran defense, 4-5 maybe. I'm not really concerned about Brady and their offense, honestly, versus our defense. But defensively, they can still get after it. And, the rookie quarterback now is a wild card, as to, what are we going to be able to get done versus that defense. So that has made everything a lot more spicy. Jimmy's injury has made everything a lot more spicy.
So they are 5-6. They play tomorrow night on Monday Night Football against the Saints. Yeah, like 5-6 still gets you first in the South here in the NFC South.
Crazy,
because the Falcons are now 5-8. Carolina's 4-8. Saints are 4-8. So Bucks could lose and they'll still be in first place by that one less loss. And the 49ers 8-4, looking as good as you can. But like you said, without Jimmy G and with Purdy, it does change things. And I'm very interested to see what the point spread is for the game next week. Because I think if let's just say Tampa Bay won, I think the Niners would have been favored by like 5.5 or maybe even a little bit more. But with Purdy, I don't know, that may be a little bit lower.
Yeah, I would absolutely think so. I think the odds makers could definitely. Oh no, Fitzmagic.
Can we take Fitzmagic away from Amazon? I heard he got some good Amazon money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Oh, I see that Seattle did go ahead and finish off the Rams, so they're still right there.
Yep, 7-5. Yeah. Geno threw for almost 400 yards a day.
Wow. So maybe they're not going to go away. maybe they are there. Maybe they're there to stay. So it'll be interesting. I am too, like you, interested to see what that number is. When it opens up with us next week with Tampa.
Justin put the +1 on Fitzmagic. Fitzmagic, can you imagine Fitzmagic running a Kyle Shanahan offense? Kyle would try to take all the good things away from him just to say, no, you can't do that.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, Philip Rivers.
Hey, what's Alex doing? I know. I kind of like Alex.
Yeah, I know his legs are probably not feeling too great, but yeah, we said that let's talk about that. Bringing Cap, bringing Alex. Let's get them both in. See who's throwing the best. Let's do it. I'm in.
Get the band back together.
You know who says that he could still play? Probably, even though he's got to be like 50 years old. Jeff Garcia.
That? Jeff thinks he can. He thinks he's got one more run left in him.
Oh yeah, Jeff's bigger than a truck these days. Last time I saw him.
The fullback.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if 49ers play the way that they played today, I mean, they should be able to beat that Bucs team, but we'll see, because the one thing about these young players is, especially a quarterback, is now that defense has all these snaps of film on him that they didn't have before, that that the Dolphins didn't have in this game, right? So that's the thing to think about, and I'm just looking so much forward to Kyle and John and what they say and who they bring in, because they're not, you can't really bring in somebody who's going to demand much more than whatever the minimum is for the last few games
at this point. Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be fascinating, man. But next week, Bucks, we'll be back to talk about that game. A little shorter show today, but I think it was just because the Niners played so well. We didn't have really anything to complain about. Yeah, I feel like some of these losses where they should have won, like that Denver one, we probably could have talked for like 3 hours about that game.
Yeah.
But okay, so we'll be back on next Sunday after the Niners against the Bucks. Tom Brady. Did I ever tell you, my buddy Randy, who sometimes pops in on this chat, he and Tom Brady played Babe Ruth ball together or something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, probably 12, 13, 14 or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And my buddy Randy's claim to fame is that I don't know if they're on the same team or they're playing against each other. I feel like they're on the same team, but Tom goes like, "Hey Randy, can I borrow your bike?" And they're playing in the middle of the game, and he's like, "Wait, like what's going on?" Tom had to go home to go to the bathroom real quick to come back during their game. So that's my
awesome.
buddy. That's my buddy Randy's claim to fame against Brady. So there you go. There's a nice little Brady story. All right, so we'll be back. And for Rod, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.